All right, Mamdal base 44b. We have a bris downstairs. So let's see what we got. So we have the view of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who understood that when the pasuk says one who's afraid and faint of heart should leave the battlefield, is dismissed, lest he drag his brothers down. His view is that it's the fear of sin. And as we learned yesterday, even a minor sin. So long as he's afraid, so long as his anxiety is gonna bring everybody down, dismissed. Even if his sin is as miniature as we said, talking between the hand tefillah and the head tefillah. The Gemara now says like this: Man Tanalo, who is the one that would say the Hatan Rabbanon, that which our sages taught? You see, have it? It's in the middle of the page. The line starts with the word man. You see him here. Man Tanalo Hatan Rabbanon. Who is the one that would be the author of that which the Brisa says? Shama kol karanes, if one heard the sound of the horns, Virtia, and he trembled. Hagafas trisin, he heard the clanking of the shields, Virtia, and he trembled. Sichtzuch haravos, he heard the sharpening of the steel of the swords. Mayim shoishisin le'al birchav, and he soils his waist, he soils his pants, he urinates, literally in fear. So it says this Brisa, Chayzer, this person returns from battle. End quote from the Brisa. So who would this be? What would you think? The guy's, he's afraid of the sound of the horns, afraid of the clanking of the shields, and soils himself, wets himself when he hears the sharpening of the sword. So he's told he's dismissed. Who would be the author of that statement?
Rabbi Yossi.
Rabbi Yossi is the one that said because of sin.
No, not Haglili, the other Yossi.
Rabbi Yossi also, the other Rabbi Yossi also said of sin, but he just said of a higher sin, only biblical sin. Right?
No, it was Yossi Haglili, because he said both.
He basically said even rabbinic sin, whereas Rabbi Yossi said only biblical sin. Right? So this is neither of them, seemingly. So let's suggest it's Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva is the original opinion in the Mishnah, which said that the meaning of the verse that someone who's afraid should leave literally means someone's afraid. So presumably this is the person who's afraid. Yeah? Says the Gemara of Allah, it's not the case. Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who is of the opinion that when the verse says that someone who's afraid should leave the battle, Rabbi Yossi Aglili says it's referring to someone who's afraid of sin. But in a case like this where the guy gets so scared that he wets his pants, I feel that Rabbi Yossi Aglili moida. Even Rabbi Yossi Aglili would agree that he's dismissed. So even though Rabbi Yossi Aglili understands the verse to mean sin, but nonetheless, he agrees that if it gets so bad that a person literally wets himself, dismissed.
Is he saying it's inclusive also because it's the sin that creates his fear?
No, it doesn't say that necessarily.
Just straight
anxiety, straight fear. Because the pasuk says, lest this person, melt the hearts or cause weakening of the hearts of his brother, just like himself. Sure. Right. So even the Rabbi Yossi really says the original fear of the verse is talking about the fear of sin, but nonetheless, in a case where it's so bad that he's definitely going to drag down his brothers, that I soiled himself, then he too is dismissed.
I think it makes sense because
it certainly makes sense.
Fear of sin, because the way the verses read, it says fear of sin that will cause your brothers to be faint of heart. So that means there must be some manifesting of his fear.
But this is not for this is not. This is not what am I saying? This is not fear of sin. This is literal fear.
Right, but the way it talks about fear of sin is that you're gonna
exactly.
Your brothers. So there must be some manifestation of that fear of sin that shows.
And even if it's not from sin,
even if
it's not from sin,
No, even if not from sin is the obvious easy case, because it does show that your brothers will be affected.
Okay, so where's the dispute between
sin is
so
even
where's the dispute between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva? In a case where it's not so extreme. In other words, there's extreme anxiety to the point where a person soils himself. Everybody agrees he's got to go. The question is when it's not so severe.
Fear of sin may not show.
Or it shows, but in other words, what level of anxiety do we expect of our soldiers to man up to? So Rabbi Yossi would say a regular anxiety born out of sin, dismissed. Rabbi Akiva says regular anxiety of war, dismissed. But Rabbi Yossi would say the fear of anxiety that Rabbi Akiva dismisses for regular fear, I don't dismiss for that. And Rabbi Akiva would say the fear of anxiety the anxiety that Rabbi Yossi is referring to in regard to sin, I don't agree with that either. That's grounds for dismissal because there's a dispute between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi in terms of the meaning of the verse. Mm-hmm. Weak and faint of heart, or afraid and faint of heart. What does it mean? Is it afraid literally, or is it afraid of sin? Right? The way Rabbi Akiva described the fear was Rabbi Akiva described this fear of he can't handle a drawn sword and he can't stand not the clanking. He can't stand the kishir machama. He can't. He loses focus in the throngs of war. Whereas this is not just the throngs of war. He's not even in the war yet. He's not in the battle yet. He's miles away. He just hears the sharpening and he soils himself. Uh-huh. So it's so extreme that it basically says you're out. Even Rabbi Yossi would agree you're out. Rabbi Akiva would definitely agree you're out. But Rabbi Akiva agrees even if you're afraid of not being able to stand in the chaos of battle, that too is enough to leave. Whereas it basically says toughen up and move forward. Right. So the question is the degree of anxiety. The degree. Here's the point. Okay, a few more lines before we go to the bris. The Gemara says, the Mishnah said, the first reads that when the officers finish their speech, right, and then everybody leaves. Hold on, let's go back a page to see the actual language of the Mishnah. Just pulling it up on the screen here. Let's put them on Aleph. Okay. So the Mishnah said, when the verse reads, when the officers finish their speech, and then they hire people to stand in front of them to lead them, and the Mishnah said they put people behind them just in case someone runs away, bang him with metal rods. Right. Right. So you shouldn't run away. Why? Because running away is the beginning of falling. Okay. But the language of the Mishnah is as follows. Hi, this language seems interesting. The Mishnah reads, the beginning of running is falling. Shouldn't it be the beginning of falling is running? Not the beginning of running is falling. The beginning of falling is running, which will precipitate what? The running causes people to fall, not the falling causing people to run. The whole point here is the reason why we're not letting him leave the battlefield is because the running away from the battlefield is going to cause a fall. Yeah. But the Mishnah reads it like this. The beginning of running is the falling. It should be the reverse. The beginning of falling is the running, and therefore don't let them run. That's what it should have said.
The beginning of falling is the running.
That's correct. Whereas what it reads is the beginning of running is falling. So the Gemara says, Ema, indeed you are correct, and you should read the Mishnah the other way. Yeah. The beginning of falling is the running. That's it. Yeah? And the same thing is true of our internal battle with the Yetzer Hara. Running from the fight because you're overwhelmed, that's the first step in falling into prey to the Yetzer Hara. You would think, I'm running away from the Yetzer Hara, I'm not going to fall for it. I'm running away. Why am I going to fall? No. If the reason you're running away from the Yetzer Hara is because you think it's overwhelming, he will get you. Standing face to face to the Yetzer Hara and saying, I ignore you. That's the way to go.
How does that
internally?
How do you apply that?
How do you apply that?
What does that mean? Running away versus standing up. What's an example?
Let's think of an example of that.
It sounds good on paper.
Yeah. Let's think. Good challenge. Like,
Let's say a thought pops in your head.
Yeah.
Thought that you shouldn't have. So you think of another thought that got these.
Right.
That would be considered not running away, right? It would be facing it. Or, oh no, maybe you have a choice between doing one thing.
I'll tell you this. Like if you had, but think a little deeper than that. Something like a person has, God forbid, an issue with anger, let's say. Right. So he never deals with it. Whenever he feels like he's getting angry, just runs from the situation. And slowly, he thinks he's doing a good job because he's running away from the situation. But slowly, his anger increases, gets more frequent, instead of standing right in that place that's causing him to feel angry and control his anger. Because if you run from the emotion that's being built, the negative one, it just grows and grows. And I'm running away from the Yitzhak, I'm running away from the angry situation. Instead of in the mind saying, no, this is an angry situation, but I am not going to be angry. I'm going to think about something else, right? Many other character traits like that.
Yeah.
Okay, the bris is starting momentarily. Yeah, a wonderful day and a good Ner Shabbos.